are you?
Oh man, it's always good to see you and to hear you, my brother. Welcome again to CWS as it is.
Well, thank you for inviting me again. I think I'm taking up residential status on your program. I
it's
presume
all.
it might be one of my last few programs because
I hope not. What do you have to what do you have for us this evening, sis? Well, let me phrase it this way. First of all, congratulations on all your hard work. I mean, we should all congratulate each other on our diligence, whether you were for the PPP or for the coalition, Guyanese that participated in the process. We must all congratulate each other for doing this. So my question to you says, elections came, the coalition won. President David Grange is elected, is sworn in.
Mhm.
There's now Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu. What are you feeling right now about that? How do you feel?
Well, I mean, you know, from my very first conversation with you to now, I've always focused on the period after elections because the elections is the easy part, and I've always said the difficult part is taking over what the PPP has to offer you as they leave. But what I wanted to open with, I really wanted to make this statement. Guyana has won, and I want to reach out especially to that 202,000 people, 202,694 persons who voted for the PPPC. I wanted to reach out to them to say, you know what? Guyana has won. There is nothing to fear. The PPP will be peddling information to the effect that, you know, militarization will happen and your personal security will be at risk. As an Indo-Guyanese, I want to speak to them directly, and I want to tell them, I believe this government will be better than any Jagdeo Ramutar government in the history of Guyana. And your personal security will be looked after. That is something that I know that the coalition is spending a lot of time on because we cannot continue like this. And people must not feel fearful in their own country ever again. Not because of their skin color, not because of their religion, not because of their sexual orientation. People must feel safe in their country. And this is fundamental. That is why one of the first things the coalition will be doing in the first 100 days is the establishment of a task force on crime. Because exactly to do what Brigadier President David Otto Granger has said in his inauguration speech was that we have to we have to make sure that the principles of the Discipline Services Commission are instituted. So what I'm feeling, getting to the answer, I know I'm a bit long-winded there. I am feeling a sense of hopefulness.
Hmm.
I had actually a couple of red stripe yesterday. So I had a sense of joy yesterday, a relief, because this thing stretched out a really long time.
Did you witness the swearing in?
Yes, I did. Well,
What
I watched the video. I'm in Maryland, USA right now.
what was going through your mind as that was taking place?
The first thing that hit my mind is that any government but the PPP will do better than better for Guyana. And when Mr. Granger started singing "Let Us Cooperate," um, I got goosebumps on my skin because it tells me that he's trying to message something. Yes, he knows that a fair amount of East Indians, the majority of East Indians, didn't vote for him and the coalition, but he's sending strong signals to them. Let us cooperate for Guyana. And that is very important because Guyana will not ever develop if significant segments of our society are excluded. The PPP deliberately marginalize and exclude the poor and the working class, and especially targeted Afro-Guyanese. I'm talking about the Jagdeo Ramotar regime from about 2006 to now. And it hurt them. It hurt them. And the expectation, and what the PPP has been peddling in the villages is that this government will marginalize East Indians. And I want to say, I don't believe that. And I want people to look practically, measure this government day by day. And I want the people also to be the custodian of that 100-day plan. Because this is not a game. We didn't support or endorse the coalition to just get rid of the PPP. We wanted to change the way we are governed as a people. We want to contribute more to the governance process, not be excluded. So when you see one of the deliverables of the 100-day plan is the coalition will work with the Berbice Bridge Company to reduce the bridge toll, we got to hold them to that. 100 days is August 30th, 2015. We got to hold them for that. To that, we got to hold them to that. When they're saying they're going to significantly increase the government workers' salaries, and initially they're giving 10% to all classes of workers and 20% to policemen and women, we got to hold them to that. I know it can be done because I've looked at the 2014 budget in detail, and I can tell you both of those things can be done. I've written a paper for the coalition on the reduction of the Berbice Bridge toll, where we show exactly where the money can come from. These things can be done. So I am asking those East Indians who voted for the PPPC, and I'll tell you why I'm saying East Indians, to hold this coalition to that 100-day plan. It's not a long time. Give them the benefit of the doubt over the next 100 days and measure them on that.
Were you surprised the coalition won this election?
No, I wasn't surprised at all because, as I said to you, I think I said on your show, there's one constituency, if they came out, the PPP is going to lose. And that is a constituency that have actually been absent from all elections since 1992. I don't really have the history of elections before 1992, but all elections from 1992 that I've observed and witnessed, there's a constituency that has always been absent in the main, and that's young Afro-Guyanese men. Young Afro-Guyanese men, mainly from the urban areas. They came out in 2015 in their numbers. They are the ones who pushed this victory. The other constituency that really was very helpful was the quality of politicking that especially Mr. Granger did in the hinterland communities. It made a difference. Yes, we may not have won Region 9, we may not have won Region 1, but we were able to secure increases in the votes in those regions that played a critical role in pushing us over the edge. Let's not be triumphalism about this victory. The victory was a very thin victory. 207,000 versus 202,000. I think maybe one of the closest elections I've seen in my lifetime. So it is the impetus and the is on the coalition to rule, as Mr. Granger said in his speech yesterday, for all Guyana and deliberately do things for all Guyana. We got to understand the PPP cabal is not East Indian Guyana. They don't represent the East Indian. They lead that group, but they lead them by force, by bullyism, by fear. But it's just 500 to 1,000 people, not even so much. They're not, many of them are not even Hindus. So the reality is the PPP leadership is a cabal, a very small cabal. The bulk of the PPP's support in this election came from Hindus, the Hindu community. But those people voted out of fear, out of bullyism, out of comments that were made at the very local level that if you vote against us, we will know how you and your family vote and we're coming for you. That is the kind of operation that that happened in 2015 and 2011. So people voted out of fear also. And yeah, go ahead.
Says I just a question that, as you mentioned, that came to mind. I've been hearing throughout throughout cyberspace, seeing throughout cyberspace and so on, that the past president, former president, Jaglio, was using a lot of inflammatory rhetoric and so on that could have incited violence and serious racial division. What are your thoughts on that? Is that accurate? And if that's the case, what are your thoughts on that actually?
Could have. My take on it, irreparable damage has been done by the PBP leadership in this campaign. But what they don't realize, when racial war starts, it's the rich that will punish the most. And who has the wealth in Guyana? Who are the billionaires of the new billionaires of Guyana? Members of the PBP leadership. So they will lose if this thing goes crazy. The poor and the working class will never lose. You know, they have nothing. They don't even know where tomorrow's meal is coming from. They don't even know where the travel fare to take their kids to school is coming from. So the poor will not lose when there's a racial war. So it was quite irresponsible, quite narrow, and foolish, because the national census, which I've had a confidential copy of the demographics breakdown, revealed that East Indians are only about 40% of the population. So why would you exploit racism to try to win an election? You can't win an election with any single ethnic group. And that is why I'm so happy that the coalition was able to piece together constituencies from all races. Guyana Action Party was mainly an Amerindian party. The PNC gathered most of its support from Afro-Guyanese community. The AFC has gotten real traction in the mixed community and the East Indian community. So I believe the coalition, if you look at all the coalition rally versus a PPP rally, you look at the PPP rally, it's 15,000 East Indians at Luziknan versus, yes, a dominant Afro-Guyanese gathering at Square the Revolution. But when you look carefully, there's sprinklings of Amerindians, sprinklings of East Indians, sprinklings of, many mixed people were in those groups. So the reality is any one of the coalition meeting was a better reflection of Guyana than a PPP meeting.
GCOM, why do you think it took so long to release the results?
Boy, if you had been tracking me on Facebook, I have been one of the harshest critic of GCOM, because they're definitely decades behind the rest of the world, decades with regards to electoral laws, electoral performance, electoral systems. They're decades behind the world. In India, they count hundreds of millions of ballots much faster. In England, they counted 30 million ballots in about 12 hours. So we got a challenge. And one of the things I don't like about GCOM, George Bali came across as arrogant, as if, you know what, I'm following the laws, so you, the rest of Guyanese, you have to wait on me. No, we don't have to wait on you. You are our servant. We pay you. And you have to do all within your power to deliver results. I understand that they got to go through certain processes and so forth. But Steve Serge Bali's been running elections for a while now. He's being paid enough money, and the commissioners are being paid enough money, and the chief elections officer is being paid enough money to strategically recommend changes to the electoral laws to make them more modern, or respective of the will, the need of the people to want timely results. We cannot wait again in 2020 for 1 week. It is unacceptable.
And the PPP, the PPPC, was not eager to concede. What is your take on that?
Well, you know what? I always believe mature people look at the reality. The PPP has acted very, very politically mature. It's like when we are playing cricket in primary school. I remember there was this guy called Bash in my school. When he got bowled out, he's pick up his bat and his stumps and everything and say, "Well, I don't play. I won't play with y'all no more." That is what the PPP came across as. I mean, they've lost the elections, whether they like it or not. Every single observer group, internally and internationally, have said that the elections were free and fair and free from fear.
Mm.
Of course, there'll be anomalies, cases here and there. But those cases here and there were not significant to overturn the will and verdict of the people. And I would want to encourage the PPP to, well, nobody cares if they concede or not. That's their business. What is very important is that if they feel that they've been cheated, they should file an election petition and go to court. But do not try to infringe on the Guyanese psyche. And to people like me, with this dastardly phrase of theirs, cheated but not defeated. There is only one politician in Guyana who's ever been cheated but not defeated. And it's definitely not Donald Ramotar and Bara Jagdeo. They lost the 2015 elections fair and square. Time for the PPP to get back to the drawing board and relook at themselves, do a great introspection, and get back to the jargon values of lean, clean, and mean, living and working for the working class, and doing things, fighting, advocating for the working class. That is what they need to do. And stop this nonsense of trying to cling on to power when power is no longer theirs.
And the reality is, yes, the coalition won, but by a narrow margin, according to stats. Even though some people are doubting that, but according to stats, by a narrow margin. How can we or they persuade that percentage that voted for the PPPC to join hands with the coalition in rebuilding Guyana?
The first thing, and I've already shared this advice with my colleagues in AFC, basically saying to them, the first thing that this government has to do quite aggressively is to attack crime. Personal security in Guyana is at an all-time low. And it's also in the 100-day plan, item number 14, where the coalition promised to establish a task force on crime and security. This is very, very, very important. And I notice people like Paul Slow are back in the fringe of things. I think he's going to be the new head of the presidential guard. And Mr. Joe Harmon, the head of the presidential secretariat. It is very, very important that credible policemen like Paul Slow add their thoughts and their skills to help the commissioner. And I heard also President Granger. Let me make that very clear. Hear this, Bara Jagdeo and Donald Ramotar. President David Arthur Granger. Yeah, so when I heard President David Arthur Granger has said he will keep Silal Prasad, the current commissioner of police, in place. But what is very important is that this commission be there to advise and help the police force. The police force is at its weakest. And it's very, very important that we sort out personal security issues in Guyana. It is vitally important. I believe if people in Quarantine and West Demerara and so forth feel that they can live in peace and, every now and then open their door and hang out on their veranda without somebody running up and say, "Give me your money," that that will be the decider, or the what we call it, the differentiator, deciding whether this coalition is successful at penetrating that 202,694,000 votes or not.
Says, what are some of your personal immediate, well, you mentioned the security and so on, but your personal immediate expectation of this new administration, let's say the first 100 days?
Well, they've outlined a plan. I mean, the coalition has outlined a plan. And the one that is top of my priority on that plan is, without even finding out what is in the national budget, immediately, when the Minister of Finance is sworn in, he should announce a salary increase for everybody, as the coalition has promised, for 10% across the board. Let's not mince about this. It is very, very important that those who are at the bottom of the ladder immediately feel the impact of this new government. We don't want to hear any fancy education policy and health policy and all kinds of policy, agriculture policy. Let us hit the people with real bread and butter right away from day one. That should be the first decision of the Granger cabinet. The second decision I think is very, very vital is establishment of the Public Procurement Commission so that we can create the savings to pay for that salary increase. Thirdly, I think it is very important that we establish that National Youth Council, because young people voted for this coalition. And it's very important this coalition organize those young people, mobilize them, get them trained, put them into productive work so that we can increase the competitiveness of the country. Vitally important that we increase the competitiveness of the country. So those are like my three things.
Three things.
Of course, they spoke about increasing the old age pension, which also will put bread on the table for people who are living in poverty. You would be shocked how many poor people are living in poverty in Guyana.
Code of conduct for, this is another thing I'm hearing through the diaspora. Code of conduct for government officials, ministers of the government, and so on. How important is that?
I think is vitally important, because what you're setting is, actually I said just now, increasing old age pension for poor people. It's actually increasing old age pension for old people. But getting to your thing on code of conduct, vitally important, because we're coming from a history where we have many ministers leaving office as billionaires. And they joined government as bicycle riders. One of them used to be a security guard for bicycle at Metropole Cinema many moons ago. And he's leaving government as billionaires. So code of conduct is vitally important. But you know what is more important is civil society got to get some backbone. The Human Rights Association is like literally dead. The Lawyers Association, they are just so focused on their scheme of things. They have to come out more and talk about national issues and without fear. The Accounting Association, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Guyana, they've always been so focused on their little thing. I would say almost cowardly. Civil society has to hold the coalition government to their manifesto. Civil society has to hold the government to a higher standards. The Private Sector Commission had become the fifth leg to the PPP administration. I hope that these guys, can now become more independent and do not fear. And whenever they feel that they're being discriminated against, they should complain to the embassies, the US embassies, the British High Commission, the Canadian High Commission, the Carter Center, the Commonwealth. They should complain to CARICOM so that the world will know when they're under threat and give them strength. We need civil society to be stronger and not what it was under Ramatar Jagdeo administration. And I keep bringing in Jagdeo because let me make it absolutely clear. Ramatar was just the fake president, I will call it. The real president was someone else.
Sorry. Um, there seemed to be a mood and a call for a national conversation on race relations in Guyana. Um, what are your thoughts on that, Sis?
It has to be done. I mean, it's mandatory now. This campaign has damaged us so much as a people um, that they're inherent and very deep distrust between the main ethnic groups in Guyana because of this campaign. Um, and I want to encourage supporters of the coalition, where I think I have some level of influence. It is not good to behave triumphantly. You know, we on top. We can roll a PPP barrel or cup through the streets of one of the Afro-Guyanese villages. Not good. Not good at all. There are 202,694 people who are living in fear right now because of what the PPP is doing. And your job as ordinary supporters of the APNUAFC is to reach out to your neighbors and comfort them and protect them and tell them the fear that they have in their mind, it's a false fear. There is nothing to fear because you and your government and the government of all of Guyana will protect all Guyanese. And that conversation needs to be needs to happen. And people like Swami Akshanandan are vitally important to that conversation. I know he's a controversial fella, but he's a very, very intelligent fellow, and he's actually given greater leadership to the Hindus of Guyana than any other political force.
What's his name? What's his name again, Sis?
Swami Akshanandan. He has a school, a Hindu school in the West Demerara. And he's written a couple of letters in the newspapers of late. And he's vitally vital. My point is, it will be such a wonder, such a beautiful thing if President Granger can reach out to Swami Akshanandan and start an active conversation with him on how to heal this divide, how to bring our people together to work with one common purpose and one common vision, which is molding Guyana, using the best talent to do the best jobs, and promoting people not because of the color of or texture of their hair, but because of their skill set, their experience, their commitment to Guyana.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, honestly, Swami Akshanandan is a very committed guy to Guyana. Yes, he's fearful like everybody else who voted for the PPP. I don't know if he voted for the PPP, but he represents, he is a leader of that grouping. And it's very important that that fear is understood and dealt with. Because in the PNC era, when the PNC was in power, the sugar union, the sugar workers, the rice sector, a fair amount of people undermined Forbes Barnum. And he failed because of that undermining. We do not want that. This is not about whether an Afro-Guyanese in power or an Indo-Guyanese. This is about telling all Guyanese, I am president for all of you, not just in words, but in action. And we get all our people on board and dissipate that fear. But that fear will only be dissipated if that conversation that you suggested happens and at the highest level.
Sis, my brother, time is upon us. And thank you once again. And I just want to dispel that idea you came up with at the beginning of the program, that this is your last appearance on CWS as it is. I hope, my brother, that you don't disappear on us. As a matter of fact, I know how to reach you, so I'll be reaching out again. Thank you,
Well,
brother.
I want to come down to New York. We got to have a beer.
Oh, definitely.
I feel relieved. I mean, you don't know how relieved I feel that the PVP is now in opposition. They're going to be a very strong opposition, and they will now have to rebuild themselves and understand. They must look from the galleries how it is to run a country. And on that note, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, brother. Take care.
This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad. I love you. Thank you very much.